Hello and welcome to String Training. In today's class we will focus on my arrangement of In the Air Tonight by Phil Collins. Let's get our guitars in the drop D tuning. So string 6 down one whole tone to D. Alright, there's only 3 chords in the piece, but many variations on the chords. But essentially the song's built on D minors, C's, and B flats. There's a few different chord progressions in the song, but they're all kind of constructed with those 3 chords. Let's get to the percussion. Alright, I use 3 different sounds that create our percussion using the ring finger of our right hand. The nail actually comes in contact with the soundboard just below the strings. Using your wrist above the strings. And then the thumb above the sound hole. That's the main percussion. A little later there is a drum roll, which is a few different things, but let's work on that main percussive rhythm that introduces the song. So we have a 2-measure rhythm here. Let's work on measure number 1, starting with the ring finger below the strings to the wrist. That's measure number 1. Measure number 2 starts the same with that ring finger. So that adds in the thumb after many of the bass or kick sounds which are done with that wrist. Putting the 2 together, scattered throughout the piece, there's many variations on that, but really it's just me filling in time. Like if I've got a couple beats at the end of a phrase, I fill in those couple beats with something very similar to what you just heard. Let's get to some of the chords. For example, the introduction begins with a D5 chord, which is our open top 3 strings. Fill in the rhythm around it. Same thing with this D minor chord way up here in the 10th fret. Do a hammer to the 12th fret to get us the D9 chord. Fill in the rhythm around the chord. Okay, more D minor chords here, this time 5, 6, and 7. To C, 3, 5, and 5. Now what happens here is this is measure 1, this is measure 2. So I play measure number 1 percussion, measure 2 percussion. Same thing applied to the D or B flat chord here, which is exactly the same grip as the C. And then back to that C. Okay. Getting us into the first verse. Now, what happens here is I kind of drop the percussion out and really focus on the melody and the harmony. So for measure number 1, based on the D minor chord, we start with our lower tones of the chord, strings 6 and 5. There it is. That was string number 2, our vocal melody. Moving on to our C chord. Bringing my second finger down here to get the A on string number 3. And we finish off with that 3rd fret, string 2, open string 3. We're now on onto the B flat. It's like playing a power chord if you like. Second finger's free to do a pull. And again back to a C chord, adding that A to it. And that's our first verse is kind of based on that theme, with slight variations. And I just kind of improvise around it, and when I have time, usually at the end of each phrase, I'll add in a little bit of the percussive side of things. Okay. Now moving into the next verse of the song a little later. Here we've got the chord progression changes slightly, and the melody changes a little bit. Plus, I add in more percussion. So most of the additional percussion is me doing the bass or kick sound on beats 1 and 3. Here's an example on the D minor chord. And we got and I do the same thing over the C chord. It's all rather improvised, just trying to add a little bit more momentum to the arrangement. Now our vocal melody here is on the D chord, pretty much all just that 3rd fret string number 2, moving to the C. That's open string 3. To the B flat. Again, open string 3. Kind of a D7 chord to finish that progression off. And again, slight variations within that melody get us through to the drum roll, which I kind of based it on two hits kind of thing, going across. Starting with my fingers, I use both my middle and ring finger on the bottom side, and then the thumb comes through on the top side of the strings. Slight move, again. So a total of 4 moves to get me from a higher kind of tom sound to a lower tom, finally finishing with my wrist on the top. Alright, and that gets us to the final chorus. Again, the same chords. And that's all pulled right from the very beginning of the song, exactly the same melody. The only thing is I'm adding in the rhythm with my wrist and the snare hits with my thumb. So that's kind of the underlying foundation of what I'm doing. I'm doing the bass note, 2 bass notes, each corresponding with the wrist. Okay. Good luck with the arrangement. It's fairly challenging. When you break it down, you think there's only a couple chords. That really doesn't make it easy. There's a lot of different techniques in the piece, and I practiced it quite a bit prior to recording the actual video, and you really have to get dynamics and tempo and timing to really get that that arrangement to speak, because it's kind of sparse at times. But that's kind of what the beauty of the thing is, when you put it all together and you get that timing and all those things put together, it really does work nicely. Good luck, and feel free to ask some questions. Thanks, guys.